Hey guys, welcome back. Now let's see what is a function. So every programming language lets you create some blocks of code that when are called they perform specific tasks. Imagine a dog that does the same trick only when it is asked. Except you do not need a dog to be treated to make your code perform in a specific way. In programming, these code blocks are called functions. So all programming functions have input and output. So we can say that in each programming function we have specific input. Sorry for my letters again. That can result to specific output. So all programming all programming functions have specific input and specific output. The function contains instructions used to create the output from the specific input. It's like, for example, a sheep that eats grass. The input, which its body turns into milk, which a dairy farmer then milks, and the milk is the output. So, for example, programming functions might take as input integer or number. The function might create output by multiplying the input times 2. So therefore the output of the function will be double its input. So imagine this dog that we would like to make a trick. And each time that we call this function right there to make a trick right there, then the dog makes exactly the same trick. Each time exactly the same trick. So I call the function make trick and the dog makes the jump. So imagine a short hello message you sometimes see in online software applications at the top right corner of any page. Hello and your name. The function would take as input your name or maybe your user number from the application, and then it will drop your name with your user number into the phase hello your name. So if your name is, for example, Mike, the output of this function will be hello Mike, or hello Chris if your name is Chris. So the question is if it's possible to build entire software applications only with functions. Programming languages which primarily use functions are called functional programming languages, and most of the languages are primarily functional languages. You build software by building blocks of code that perform specific tasks. This is the logic. So what is a function? A function is a block of organized reusable code that is used to perform a single related action. So I'm sorry, it is very important that a function is a block of organized reusable. The key word here that you should remember is the reusable code. Whenever we would like to reuse our code more than one times, we should create a function that we will call to execute exactly the same commands, the same code each time that we are going to call this function. So functions provide better modularity for your application and a high degree of code reusing. Basic functions are actually the print function that we would like to print something in the screen, or the main function that in many languages like Java, C, C++, C#, our language begins to execute the commands from the main function. These actually functions are called built-in functions, provided by the language itself. So we can write our own functions as well, and in this course we will see how to write and use these functions in the programming language. So good things about functions is that they are famous with a lot of names. Different programming languages name them differently. So you can you might listen to them, hear to them by functions or methods or subroutines or procedures. If you come across any such terminology, then just imagine about the same concept that we are going to discuss in this lesson. I repeat, you might also hear it as functions or as methods or as subroutines or as procedures. So it's almost the same thing like functions that we're going to describe. So talking about functions is a great time to talk about how they perform with specific inputs and specific outputs. As you can see here, we have a function, hello world, that each time that we call this function, we have a specific output, hello world, printed in our screen. So in this hello world example, our test is very simple. We should confirm that the function outputs the phrase hello world, in the way we design the function. So as noted, we could design our hello world function to display the phrase by actually three different ways. We can call the function and the function would display the phrase. So calling the function, the first one, the second one, returning a value that could be assigned to a variable like hello variable. Actually, to show you that this is a variable, I used the dollar in front of the hello world, but this is not something very common in a lot of languages. You might see it in languages like PHP. Creating a global value we could assign to a variable like hello. It's the third one. So creating a global variable we could assign to a variable like hello. We say here that we could create and use a global variable because a global variable means that it could be accessed by everywhere inside our program. So whatever method we might choose, our unit test would confirm our function performed as we intended, because all these three methods are correct, and we can use it to display the phrase hello world. So what is a function at last? Let's see an example. Let's start with an example. Let's start with an algorithm where we will actually define two arrays of numbers, and then from each array we will try to find the biggest number, the max. So given these steps, we are going to find out the maximum number from a given set of numbers. So as we can see here, the algorithm, the recipe of the success, actually, we have a list of numbers. So here is the list of numbers from L1 to Ln. So I have n numbers. We assume that L1, the first number, is the largest one, so we set the maximum as L1. We take the number Li, by I meaning all the next ones, from the list and do the following. If max is less than Li, so Li is a bigger number than what we set as maximum there, we set maximum as Li. So if Li is the last number from the list, then print value stored in the maximum and come out. So the 8th step that is here, I'm sorry for this, we would repeat the same process starting from step 3. So if it's the last number, the Li, we should stop and print the max, else we will continue with the next number from our list. So this is the function, this is the algorithm in a more codable way, in something that is like a program in C, for example, or in C#. What we forgot there is actually that we should have brackets, because we have a lot of commands in our function. So as you can see right here, there are the brackets. I'm not very good in designing the brackets. Actually, the first command is to create, actually this is a function for only 3 numbers. So we're going to find the maximum value from 3 different variables: variable A, variable B, variable C. But this doesn't mean that we can use only 3 numbers, because these are the input from the specific function, and this function can be called as many times as might want to execute these commands. So if I have, for example, 4, 5, 6, I can also use this function with different input, and each time that I call this function, I will get the maximum number, I will get the result that I want for the numbers that are inside this function. So I declare the max variable as integer, and I assign the value of the variable A to variable max. If B is bigger than max, then the value of the variable max is going, the value of the variable B is assigned into the value of the variable max. If C is bigger than max, then we do exactly the same. We assign the value of the variable C to the max, and then we are going to return the max value. So if we try to define a function, we will say, like in this example, you can see that the final value that is returned is the value of the variable max, and the variable max has an integer value. So the function findMax will return, and this is how we declare it in our program, will return an integer number, So we define a function by the return type, as you can see right there, and the function name and the parameter list. So we have all the parameters right there. Then we have the commands executed in this function, and then we have the return and the expression, of course, what we're going to return. But don't forget that this return would be compatible with the return type. If the return type is integer, then we should return an integer. If it's string, we should return a string. If it's double, we should return a double, or we will get an exception error. So the general form of a function is this. Consists of a function header. This is actually the function header right there, as you can see. Again, sorry for my letters. Function header, and this is the function body. So the return type right here, a function may return a value. The return type is the data type of the value the function returns. Some functions perform the desired operations without returning a value. In the case that the return type is not in the case that the function is not returning something, then the return type is the keyword void. So if it's nothing, then we should say that it's a void function name, void, not int, not double, not string, but we write void. So then we write the function name. This is the actual name of the function name and the parameter list together constitute the function signature, the function header. In the parameter list, a parameter is like a placeholder. This means that when a function is invoked, you pass a value as a parameter. This value is referred to as the actual argument, as the actual parameter. The parameter list refers to the type, the order, and the number of parameters of a function. Parameters are optional. This is a function which may contain no parameters. So then we have the function body, and the function body contains a collection of statements that defines what actually the function does. So this is the code. This is how we can use it in different programming languages, and here we can see an example of calling a function of you can see that I have a function right there. I'm sorry for this. We have a function right there, and here is the main function of the program. So this is an example in C, but it is very, very similar in almost all the programming languages. So this is an example of calling a function, but you will understand how to use or how to read functions in almost every code. So we have here a function getMax, where we are returning a maximum number, and then we have a main function where as you can see we are calling the getMax with the set1 right here. So then we're again using a function, a built-in function called Printf, so that we can print this message in our screen, max in first set. This is %d, means that we will print an integer. Actually we will print the value of the variable max, and then we say that we will set we will print the value set equal percentage d max, and then we will return 0. This is actually wrong. We'll return 0 and question mark, and I'm sorry. This means actually that even the main function will wait for something to be returned, and we will return at the end of the program the zero number. So this is an example of how we can write code to call the getMax function, and here is the getMax function, where there is an integer array of numbers, set of numbers, as you can see, as an input in this function, and this function returns the maximum number of these numbers. So we omit here all the code, but I would like to show you how this program is structured. So I think with this program you could understand how functions are being used inside our programs, and be ready to write your first programs in a functional way. So looking forward to hearing you in the next lesson.